Well, it really can divide families, can it?
Yeah, it can, but this is a family that has a lot of fun with it. If Lee would have followed in his father's footsteps, he would have played at Dickinson State. If Landon would have followed in his brother's footsteps, he would have played at UND, but he went to NDSU. This unique football family from Dickinson is this week's Sports Spotlight. Lee Smith helped the University of North Dakota win a national championship. Landon Smith helped North Dakota State make the playoffs for the first time in FCS.
When he chose that, you'd automatically think that that's where Landon was going to go, because Landon spent a lot of time carrying Lee's duffel bag around after the UND games from the Alaris Center.
What kind of swayed me, I think, one way at the end of the day was NDSU had started making that transition already when I was going through the recruiting process, and UND wasn't quite sure what they were going to do at the time.
7 years separate the Dickinson Trinity grads, and that gap somewhat softened the blow of playing for different universities. But the older brother has something the younger one does not. Lee suited up against the in-state rivals.
That's why you play, is to play in games like this, and it's a true rivalry game. It's a game that everybody has interest in.
Landon helped the Bison beat some FBS schools, but as exciting as those wins were, it's not NDSU against UND.
I think I would probably give up those games, and one of those games to play in the UND NDSU game. I'm definitely jealous I never got to play in one.
I think Lee would tell you that was one of the highlights of his career when he was at UND, was being able to play NDSU.
It was just a very intense game. It was very emotional.
While Landon feels he missed out on those emotions, Lee is okay with it.
I was kind of relieved that it never happened while Landon was playing. Like, it was one of those things where I knew he really wanted to play in it, and it was something that he wanted to experience. It would have been hard for me to watch it.
The Smiths will forever be a family divided by college football, but they certainly know how to have fun with it.
When we had our first son, he gave him some NDSU clothing, and they just had their first child, so some UND clothing will be coming that direction.
I'm going to be with my boys. I'm sure we'll hear the things I can't say on air when something happens on this side, something happens on this side, and at the end of the game we'll see who has to live up to the bet they made with each other.
And Dale even catches a break because both of his boys are now working for Bobcat.
Yeah, now we kind of joke because Dad doesn't really wear NDSU or UND gear. He wears Bobcat gear since we're on the same team. So.
And when the Smiths gather to watch the NDSU-UND game on Saturday, they'll be watching the station you are right now. NBC North Dakota Sports begins live coverage with a 1-hour pregame show at 1:30 Central Time on the 19th. Well, UND comes into the contest with a pair of wins, one seemingly more impressive than the other. North Dakota won at Wyoming and then held on at home against Drake. The head coach knows the Fargo Dome will be an unlikely experience from anything they've had in a long time.
If our players and our coaches haven't heard 18,000 people booing at you, I think we're going to get that. And, so that's going to be part of the environment. It's going to be a lot of noise. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. We know their home environment's a challenge for anybody coming in there.
Well, Bubba certainly knows the environment because he and some of his staff coached at Southern Illinois in the Valley Conference. It's NDSU and UND's first meeting since 2003. Well, Bismarck State has one of the top junior college volleyball teams in the country. So says the voters on the poll. The Mystics are 19th in the nation after a 12-2 start. BSC has a Mondack matchup at Lake Region tonight. And for the first time since 2010, the Marauders volleyball team is over 500. UMary is hosting Northern tomorrow before heading to Moorhead to open the Northern Sun Conference season.
All right, thanks, Lee.